Alrighty guys, welcome back again for another video covering a tab. Today we're covering the book tab, which is a specific tab to Wickerbottom. She's the only character that can build these books. Now with that, Maxwell can also use the books, and Wirt can also use the books, but it only affects her sanity, so it'll put her sanity either down or up, depending on what book she's using, but Maxwell actually gets the full use out of them. So Wickerbottom can use them, Maxwell can use them, Wirt can use them to get sanity up, down, but I mean, that's kind of a waste. So with this, let's get into it. So Birds of the World here, you can see it takes 2 papyrus and 2 eggs, so it takes really 8 reeds, 2 eggs, not very expensive as far as things go. And what it'll do here is, I will just use this real quick, and it's gonna spawn a whole bunch of birds. Now, when you do this, you're gonna wanna use sleep time stories with it and put them all to sleep. And then you're just gonna murder all of them. So you just go around and you slap them. You go bam, bam, bam. And eventually, if you slap them long enough, you can hear there that I'm getting Krampus to spawn. Here he comes. Here, buddy. There's another use for our books. I'm in God mode right now, so I'm just gonna tank him. As you can see, very quick way to get Krampus though. So a great way to gather Krampus sacks, also a great way to gather some food. So it can be pretty good for that. So our second book. So as you can see, our first book already really good. Every item in this tab is really good, but this item is really competing for being the best item in the tab. So applied horticulture, what it does is it makes it that any plants around you will regrow instantly. So the best use case for this is if you have a lure plant, you can bring that lure plant down into the ruins and place it next to a whole bunch of lichen, and then once it spawns in, you'll just go over there and use a whole bunch of these books. So you could use like say 10 of them for instance, and you're just going to get hundreds upon hundreds of lichen, and then you bundling wrap those up, and you can use those in the crock pot, and they count as vegetables, so they count the same as a carrot would in the crock pot. Very useful there. Now, our next item, Sleepy Time Stories. So you've already seen this one used. Basically what it does is it puts enemies to sleep, and basically if you were zoomed out as far as you possibly could without it zooming you back in, it's about a screen and a half radius. So extremely long range, much further than the pan flute is, although it does take a longer time to cast. And just generally very strong item. It only takes 2 nightmare fuel and 8 reeds for that, and has 5 uses. Pretty strong item there. Very strong item there, I should say. Next up we have The End is Nigh. So this book, what it does is, I'll just quickly show you guys real quick. So I gotta get my protection on here so I don't get zapped. Now, what this book does is it just summons a whole bunch of lightning around you. This is very strong if you have a WX78 you're playing with, in which case you're going to overcharge him with a whole bunch of lightning. But as far as other PvE circumstances go, it's not very useful for those. Now, I will say, if you are, say, on a pub and you're wanting to go in grief, or you just, someone wronged you, okay, and you want to just murder them and get away with it, right? This is your book to do it, okay? This will let you attack people, but it's indirectly, so even if PvP is disabled, you can still kill them with this. So I'll just show you guys real quick. Wasn't that great? Now, on to our last book. So, our last book is on tentacles. This is what I would probably say is the strongest book in the tab, even though applied horticulture is also really strong and everything in here is a very good item. What this does is when you use it, it lets you spawn 3 tentacles around you per use. So you can get 15 tentacles out of each book. These are just completely normal tentacles. They will attack you. You don't want to mess with them. So if I just were to stand on here, they're gonna murder me, right? But what you can do with that is, so what you'll want to do is, you'll want to grab some walls, whatever the ones are cheapest for you, so whatever that may be with your run and how you're gathering resources. You then break the walls, so you'll want to get a bigger pad than this, but what that'll do will make it so that the tentacles will not spawn on the walls even if they're broken down like this, even though you can walk on them. So you can use it again, and it's not going to spawn within any of those tiles. So if I made that radius a lot larger, they're not going to spawn on top of me, and I can get them where I want them to go. And then, just when I get them where I want them to go, I can use them for very specific circumstances. Say, for instance, I could use them to set up a Varg farm, which will gather me some hound's teeth and some red and blue gems, along with a lot of monster meat. And then I could also use them to set up a Spelunky farm, which gathers nightmare fuel, a lot of nightmare fuel that's very useful. And then it will also gather more souls and bananas, and then also a little bit of manure there. So it's a very, very strong farm if you can set that up, although that's a bit more late game one. Now, I will say it is very good against the Bee Queen, because she just gets murdered by tentacles. If you spawn a lot of them, there's not much she can do. It's not very good against seasonal bosses, so it's not very strong against them because they have area effect damage, so they can hit a lot of them at once. And they deal more damage to mobs than they do to players, so they're actually quite strong against tentacles. Generally not the best way to kill them, although they can be a good distraction. It can also be used for just general fighting mobs applications. So say you need to kill a pig or something and you're just not feeling up for it. You can just spawn in some tentacles and then just lure them into it, and they're gonna get murdered. So tentacles are an extremely strong mob that generally, you only see them in swamps normally. So when you can put them where you want them to be and use them for your purposes, extremely strong item. And that is it for the books tab. If you liked this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. That's it, guys. Bye-bye.